Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Sharon Vornholt, and I'm really happy you're tuning in today. My guest today is Phoenix investor Rafael Cortez, and I've been super pumped about having him on the show because we all know how important the entrepreneur mindset and the psychology behind building a successful business is. And this guest is an expert on the topic, as well as systems and processes, which I want to talk about. Rafael is a real estate coach and organizational psychologist, and he owns a traditional brokerage and wholesaling fix and flip business, as well as other companies, including verticals in education, software, and an organizational psychology practice focused on business coaching and consulting. He has profitably invested in real estate since 2009, doing everything from fix and flips, creative financing, wholesaling, and more. Rafael is passionate about using his investment knowledge, entrepreneurial experience, and his background in business psychology to help other entrepreneurs succeed through his coaching programs. So welcome to the show, Rafael.
Thank you so much for having me, Sharon.
Well, that was a lot, but that is only just the beginning of your story. So I thought I'd let you start out by telling a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
Sure. Thanks. First off, it's an honor to be on your show. I guess a little bit about me. I mean, I started as a firefighter when I was 19 years old, and at the age of 21, I launched my first business, which was a non-emergency medical transportation business, ambulance service, pretty much. And I mean that was a growing experience. So that was around 2007. In 2009, I got into real estate. And I mean, I just never really looked back. I started doing fix and flips, and came across the idea of wholesaling, a couple of deals into it. So, I mean, I honestly didn't know what I was doing in 2009. I just had some cash built up from the business, and I wanted to allocate it somewhere. And so I went out there, did a couple of fix and flips, broke even on the first two. I mean, I started thinking, right? We're like, wow, this is a lot of work for no money. 6 months down the road. Eventually, like I said, I started wholesaling deals, and I just haven't looked back since.
So you never actually planned on being a wholesaler; it just kind of happened to you.
Yeah. So on that, I think it was like the second or third deal. I paid attention. I actually paid attention to that settlement statement. And I saw a wholesale fee there for, I think it was like $22,000 or something. I mean, that was a lot more than what I was making on that flip, right? I was like, what is this thing right here? Like, well, you paid that to, X person because they found the property for you. Like, are you serious? I didn't get mad. I I mean, I bought it at that price point, right? But yeah, it was just like awakening. I'm like, okay, there's different, that's kind of like the, one of the first times that I realized there's so many different plays in real estate. It's there's so many different ways to do profitable stuff in real estate aside from the traditional sales and a typical fix and flip.
That's so interesting because I know a lot of people start out wholesaling, and if you've been in the business a while, it's easy to transition, but it's not the easiest thing to start with. But for me, I'm almost embarrassed to say it now, but I was in the business for 10 years before I ever wholesaled a deal. So I had another business, and I was doing some fix and flips, and then I'd go buy a rental. It was a really kind of a slow process. And then when 2008 came and I found myself with a couple of houses, my skill set was really in marketing and sourcing deals. And I looked at those properties and went, retail buyers can't even get a loan now. What am I going to do with these properties? Well, I'll just wholesale them. So that was how I always tell people I was an accidental wholesaler. It was just the time, and okay, I really don't want to. I'm like you. I'm not making nearly enough money on these things. And right now the market is so uncertain. Why would I want to do a fix and flip now? It just didn't make sense. But like you, I never intended to wholesale long-term, but that's just the way I just never went back to the other part.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think what happens is that if you're able to build a good solid process behind it, you can turn that into a machine and delegate it. So, I mean, and I did that. It took me a few years, right, to get it just to the point where it was actually a machine that had people plugged into it and it's running. But it's something that, for example, I can run 90-minute meetings a week. And we average about 12 deals a month with pretty healthy revenues, average revenue per deal and that sort of thing. So it stays pretty consistent. The key being lead generation and having that accountability throughout the process. But I mean, that's something, for example, that I because of the people factor. When you have contractors, when you have new teams, when you have new people that come in, which often happens in fix and flip, right? You're changing crews all the time. You have to actually go there and physically see what's going on, or get videos. Or it's a lot more taxing when it comes to time. And I think it's a lot harder to keep that accountability dialed in. So I saw that challenge and I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to put a little bit more emphasis on the wholesaling side. And I mean, thankfully it worked out well. So I've been wholesaling since 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, done a lot of deals.
So you're doing about 12 deals a month, and I didn't even have this really down to talk about so much, but marketing, which is something I always have to talk about. What are your main ways you get deals? What are your lead channels?
So I've always had the backbone has always been cold calling. So, I mean, we tap into a market, we'll buy the data, skip trace it, and then, send it out to cold calling. We used to outsource. Now we have in-house cold callers. So built a small call center for that. We have 8 people just dialing out on, all the time, going crazy on phones. That's always been a constant. Even when we had a period there over about maybe 6-8 months ago where the lead count dropped from cold calling, we still kept it going. Because text messaging was one of the biggest sources for deals, right? So but with all the red tape that's going on, and when it comes to text messaging and whatnot, cold calling just kind of picked it back up. So it's always been a backbone, cold calling. Now we're doing. I mean, we tap into text messaging was a big one. We're kind of slowly tapering away from that. Direct mail, we did it for a long time a while back, but the response rate was so low that it just didn't make sense. We can reach a lot more people a lot faster with a lot less money. So we have those kind of going on. Pay-per-click is also one of them, and Facebook ads are just they're killing right now. So our 2 main sources for marketing right now are Facebook ads and cold calling.
Boy, that's hardcore, Rafael. Cold calling. It's like, oh my gosh.
I don't do it.
I was going to say, if you ask me, do you cold call? I'll say never in this world will you see me on a phone cold calling. So that's hardcore. My hat's off to you. But like you said, you don't do it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it. I've done it a lot, right? But like now it's a team. We come in and we train, and we have this process behind it. And I mean, like anything else in business, same thing in transportation, you have to come in and then dig the trench. When I built that transportation business, I was, for a period of time there, I was a driver, I was a mechanic, I was a janitor, I was a dispatcher, I was bootstrapping the thing, right? So I learned enough in each one of the areas to be dangerous at it. And then as soon as I could, I plugged somebody into it. They took it, they did a lot better than I did with it. So.
Exactly. So I was fascinated by the fact that you talk about your organizational psychology practice, and I know intellectually what it is. How do you apply that to real estate investing?
Everything is people, right? It's people and relationships. We're real estate. It doesn't matter how you see it. It's not so much a transactional business. It's a people business. First off, for example, leading into a conversation, somebody's got to deal or do business with you. It's because they like and trust you, right? So how do you build up that relationship? How do you understand, for example, communication patterns? And that's from the client, facing side, right? How can you best understand what the real problem is so you can provide a solution for them, and create a win-win. That's what it kind of sums up to on the client side. On the team side, it's understanding people's strengths. We're not all wired the same way. There's people that have they're way better at technical stuff than I am, right? So when you understand how to connect the right behaviors, the right strengths to the right roles within a company, then you have the beginnings of of sustainability, right? Because you can plug somebody else, somebody in. It's not a matter of IQ. It's a matter of length of time that you're going to be able to sustain that. But you can plug somebody into, I don't know, a director of operations role, for example, right? And if they're they're smart, they're going to be able to handle it, right? But it's 3 months into it, usually the psyche starts getting tired because they're adapting too much from their natural behaviors to that adaptive one, which calls for their job role. And then you have turnover, you have attrition, you have burnout. And that's another one of the things that really helps out when you understand human nature and you're able to plug that into the needs of whatever your business looks like. You start shaping the company that way, and then you have people in the right butts in the right seats. If you're ever a traction follower.
Yeah, that is so smart. My daughter, she always says, know your people. Don't try to make them into what you want them to be. You have to take your people and go, what is it that they would be a long-term fit for. I think you can train for skills, but you cannot train for the rest of it. They have to be a fit in all the other ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we simplify it by hiring for attitude, right? But hiring for attitude, training for skills. And that's you can mitigate that. That's manageable. Right. So that's one of it. One of the things that helps you a lot. And it's actually one of the core things where the company that I own 4 different businesses, and every single one of them, the same methodical process is applied, right? When it comes to bringing people in, understanding where people kind of fit in terms of roles. And we're not creating roles, right? We don't see somebody that we like and then try to create a role for them. We have a role, and then we fill that in with somebody who's going to be a match for that role, and then the overall alignment of the company.
That's very smart from a long-term business perspective.
Yeah.
Another thing I noticed that you had was your this is an acronym for business, less business, more profits philosophy. So I wanted to go into those 4 things too. So it's lean systems, effective processes, strategic vision, and simple accountability. All important things in a business. Right.
It's I don't know. I started playing with fundamentals a while back, right? When I launched, I was looking at the fix and flip business. Okay, how can I make this lean? Okay, because I saw that I was spending too much money. There was a lot of friction in terms of changing stages. Okay, we go through the transaction process. How do we delegate to the actual rehab? How do we do this and that? How we hand over. How do we hand over, from one stage to the next? And we were running heavy. There was hiring done for spots that we could integrate, and there was a lot of just excess efforts and expenses going on. So all right, if I can run lean, and make the process more effective. For example, combining roles, right? That's another way or another example of making things more effective, and thinking strategic. You always start with an outcome. What I did in my first few flips was, okay, I'm just going to dive in, but I didn't have an end game to it. So I wasn't planning out for, okay, this thing has to be done in 60 days. And this is the roadmap. This is the game plan for it. These are the benchmarks. And this is how I know if I'm going to be able to finish that project from here to then, right? And that's where being strategic, comes from. Now, accountability it's actually the glue that keeps it all together. How do you keep your team accountable? We use KPIs. We're adamant about KPIs in each one of the roles, key performance indicators. So everybody, we carry a really good culture. I don't want you don't get the idea that I'm running this rigid operation where nobody's able to breathe. We have a really cool collaboration culture. The thing that makes it work is that everybody knows what they're supposed to be aiming at. We have that degree of clarity, and everybody knows what their weekly responsibilities are. Every Tuesday when we come back to the weekly meeting, this is going on. Okay, cool. Where are we at in terms of lead generation? Do we have enough leads? If not, was the amount of leads that we're supposed to hit on a weekly basis, was that reached? Was there, some hiccups in terms of tech? What happened? So we do that every single week, and break down the key performance indicators for each one of the roles. And like people understand that if they don't carry their weight in that space, it's going to trickle over to somebody else's, profitability, right? Because it's, it does. If there's not enough leads, there's not going to be enough conversion, and there's not going to be enough prospects for acquisitions and disco deals. So you're able to find like the bottlenecks and the things that are just, bogging down your operation when you actually track and you have that easy accountability, method in place.
I love that because, well, first of all, with the KPIs, if people don't know exactly what's required of them or what they're supposed to be doing, they often don't succeed simply because it's more of a lack of direction, I think, of leadership.
Yes.
So they need to know that. But the accountability piece is huge because it's easy. If you had a monthly meeting, it's really easy for all those days to go, I don't know what happened. But if you're coming in every Tuesday and you're meeting to find your bottlenecks, to figure out where it's tripped up, whether it's lead generation or maybe Facebook ads aren't working or whatever the problem is, you have a much quicker way to fix that than you do if you waited a longer period of time.
Absolutely. One example that I can give you is we're always tracking leads and sources, right? We were killing it with SMS, text messaging. Mm-hmm. So we were just bringing in a bunch of leads a week, and I mean, it was going real well. And then we saw the massive drop. You're talking like 40% drop in lead count from that particular source. Like, okay, cool. This wasn't here last Tuesday. We caught it on Tuesday, the following Tuesday, and it dropped, it really tanked. Like now we go in and we actually take a look at what's going on the SMS platform, right? Because we're sending like all this stuff is automated to like 90% of it, and we found out that we were using red flagged words, that the carriers were just dialing in on the stuff that they were stopping, right? So like, okay, so we actually had to pick up the phone and then see what was going on. Deliverability was down, but we're able to come in and then troubleshoot it, per se. And because we had that data, we found out. Otherwise, we would have been spending thousands of dollars on SMS for weeks without realizing that, the lead count wasn't coming in from text messaging. But yeah, you're able to see what's wrong first, and then fix it relatively quickly if you're tracking that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you have to be on top of your numbers, but that's even more than numbers. I mean, obviously your numbers told you had a problem, but then you dug in to see, told the story, but then you dug in to see what happened with that problem. That is a piece that I think so many people miss. They'll go, oh, this isn't working, or my direct mail's not working, or this isn't the way it was last week or last month, and they just kind of throw up their hands, and that's the end of it. They try something. They try something new. Yeah. So you are obviously a seasoned business owner. What about when people are, maybe they're starting out, but maybe they've even been doing a deal, a few deals, but they don't really have any systems. They don't have any of these processes. What specifically, I mean, I see that not only with startups, but with people that have been in business for a while. They just kind of are stagnant where they are because they haven't done these things. So where does someone start? Where do they start with all this?
The first is going to be the mindset. Right? Hustle. I like to think that hustle is a season. It's not a business strategy. We can only do so much as a solo operator, right? You're never going to be able to step away. So you don't have a business. You're self-employed. If you're not able to step away from your business, it's self-employment. It's really where we're at. So now. Understanding that is one thing. Also understanding that it doesn't matter if you don't have 10 people, 5 people, or any people working under you. You can still run your process like a business, meaning segmented, be methodical, have personal accountability, start tracking your own actions. It's one of the first things that I teach my students. Even if they're a solo operation, they have to run it like a business, because when people start doing that, when we start doing that, we start getting into that mindset of, okay, cool. I have different stages to my business. I have different stages that require different skill sets, different processes, different conversations. And when you need to hire, which one you need to hire for, right? Okay, I'm bottlenecked on the lead gen. I need a VA. Boom, you plug that person in. You know what? I don't have the ability to follow up with all these calls. I'm going to need somebody to come and help me out. Now you know that you need somebody, for the specific role of acquisitions, and you plug somebody, into that role, and you start stepping away, slowly. So what I would recommend is if it's cutting. Well, one is cutting the learning curve. Try to find a way to cut the learning curve. If it's not through coaching or like that, try to find somebody who's doing business in your area and go work for them as an acquisition specialist, and then see the whole operation. Or dispo specialist, and see the whole operation, see how it works from lead gen, and almost treat it like a paid internship. You're going to have a snapshot of what a well-oiled machine can look like, right? That's one. And then go through the process. Reverse engineering, it's one of the biggest things when it comes to business strategies and systems. Put yourself in the reverse engineering role. You're going to see the transaction of the deal right from beginning to end, and you're going to start from the end. You got paid. All right. So your money came in, it got wired to your account, and now you have, I don't know, $10,000, $20,000 in your account. Perfect. What happened right before then? Well, right before then, I got the notification that it was recorded from title. Okay, boom. That's a step. You document that. What happened right before then? We had to review the settlement statement. That's the second to last step. You document that, and you take that all the way back, boom, 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 to inception. How did we find the deal? How did we turn on marketing, right? And you create this train of just steps, and it's all linear, right? You end up with the step 1 to 50 to get a deal done. But now you have a methodical process that allows you to actually do business in a way that you're not running around like a chicken with their heads cut off.
Well, I'm pretty sure that anyone just starting out, let's say they've done their first deal, I'll bet you they never thought of reverse engineering the process. And that will also tell you where your gaps are. If you're not getting deals, well, okay, I'm not doing any marketing, whatever that looks like. But that is probably a tip that people can, they should all have this, no matter what stage you're at, because if you're struggling with any part of your business and you reverse engineer whatever isn't working, that's actually a great way to think about that.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly helpful. And it'll shine light on questions that we don't even know we have. So
that is so cool. And I love that you talk about freedom through processes and systems. That all goes hand in hand, though. I mean, I know you can do this to some extent as a solopreneur, but for the person just starting out, do you recommend VAs, or do you recommend that they hire a part-time person? Do you have a personal recommendation?
If they're starting off, and you got to dig the trench,
right?
You got to dig the trench. You have to go through it, and like, for example, one requirement that we have is if you hire a VA right away, right, to make, for example, the phone calls and reach out, to leads and all that stuff, but you've never had a real conversation, meaning a negotiation or rebuttals or something like that with the seller, as is the case in our world, right? You're not going to be ready for that conversation. You're not going to be. I mean, you may get a bunch of leads, right? But you're not going to have the tools to come in and convert it. It's very different when you have a script and you read, the script, and you have all this theoretical knowledge than when you're right in the middle of the conversation with a seller. The emotions are different. The pivots are different. Just the ways of finding what the real problems are, they're very different. The way that you practice for that is actually coming in and going through the work at the beginning. I'm a big proponent of doing, picking up the phone in the case of cold calling and having those conversations first. I mean, at least running through 100 of them, so you get somewhat familiar. It's hard to get comfortable with them, but you get familiar and you understand, okay, this is a rebuttal that you get on a regular basis. And you start to navigate those conversations and build that thicker skin that we need for real estate, because real estate it's vicious, right? Like,
yes,
there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of rejection that happens when you're trying to. And
I tell my students, make your mistakes before it's a deal you care about. So make the calls, take the calls. You're absolutely right. You cannot train somebody to talk to sellers if you haven't done it and you don't know what they're going to say. And you get different kinds of sellers too. If you are if they're calling about a house, you'll get one and you try to nail them down on what's in the house. They'll go, this house was my grandmother's for 25 years. It's solid. Okay. That just told me absolutely nothing. So you have to kind of learn how to lead people back to the answers to, you know, and the questions that you really want to know. But there's just nothing that will replace experience, whether it's looking at houses. I always tell people, you know, you never want to be running around looking at every house, but the first few leads you get, you should go look at the house. You should learn to figure it out on the phone. Is this a good lead or not a good lead? But you don't know what's a good lead if you don't go out and do it.
Yeah, through the years, I think I've been on over, I don't know, maybe 1,200 appointments, face-to-face appointments. And I would take appointments face-to-face, even when, you know, I don't think this, I mean, I felt like it wasn't going to be a deal just to put in the reps. Right. Like, okay, I'm getting an opportunity to go sit in front of somebody else and then have that conversation, then push my comfort level, push my conversation, maybe get rejected. and then just, you know, I saw it as a intentional learning. You know, every chance I could, right? But I think that's important because it really builds you up. In terms of confidence radiates. If you have that confidence, you're on the other side of the table or on the other side of the phone, people feel that. And I think, you know, it's important, right? To have that assurance that you can get a deal done because you've gone through the ringer and you have the experience behind it. If we start off hiring, I've had you know, people that jump in and like, oh, I have $50,000. What do I, you know, what do I need to? Who do I bring on? Who do I hire? How do I, you know, make this work yesterday? And like, pump your brakes. I mean, we have to build you up first and then the business.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree with that 100%. You have to, I love that what you call dig the trenches though. It's a really says you're going to be miserable for a time and you're going to be maybe terrified. Some people, I've seen people that send out $10,000 worth of direct mail and they're too terrified to pick up the phone. I mean, how crazy is that? So you have to do it, but you're right. Confidence is everything, but confidence comes about from believing you can do it, first of all, and from actually going out and doing it. And like you said, you won't get the deals. You'll mess it up. You're going to make mistakes, but you have to feel the pain to succeed.
Yeah. I mean, it's just part of the rite of passage, I think. So yeah. And the first hire, I think it's always going to be a VA, somebody to start helping you out with the tasky stuff. For example, cold calling, right? It's one of our backbone marketing strategies. So we're always going to have cold calling in place. If you're not running cold calling, maybe you have, you know, you still hire a VA to help you out with the taskiness of things, maybe transaction coordination or the stuff that we can delegate or automate. Automation is one thing. I mean, you use CRMs, you use, you know, software for that kind of stuff, but there are the stuff that you can delegate that you don't have to be there for. And you plug somebody in there so you can recover hours of your day. So it's it does a few things. Whenever you plug somebody else into your business, if you've never had employees, now you have that pressure to perform. So it motivates you in the morning. Like, you know what, I gotta make payroll. And it's not it's almost like burning the boats when it comes to feeling comfortable with and you know with not doing anything.
You have people to feed. I used to call them people to feed, and that is a big responsibility. So it does keep you on track. But I agree with you. I know someone who exited out of a business and had some cash, and the first thing he did was go out and get a big office, hire some people, and then he had no idea how to actually generate income or to make money off of anything. So it was not the way you should start, for sure. I agree with you 100% on that, Rafael.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do you hire you probably do not hire yourself today, but I would assume you did all of your hiring initially.
No, I did. I was doing all the hiring. Now we have onboarding and hiring protocols. So I have managers in each department. And the way that my company is broken down because of that accountability factor that I was mentioning earlier, I have a lead manager. I have an acquisitions manager, and then I have a dispositions manager. So they have people working under them, and they're in charge of, you know, their own teams. And these are not massive teams, right? It's 2 or 3 people under each one of those roles. but they go through the hiring process. I built it's my criteria. It's the stuff that, okay, I want this, type of person in the company. We hire based on values. We hire based on skill sets, and specifically we do behavioral assessments when we're hiring, because each role requires different strengths, right? And that's a lot of where the organizational psychology part kicks in. So we'll hire based on that, and then we have an onboarding process where they actually get trained. So they get selected, they get trained, they go through the training protocol a couple of weeks. And through this process, I just kind of tap in every now and then with every employee, just to check in and see how they're doing, and actually start building that relationship. And then as far as follow-ups, we have the management meetings every Tuesday. And then we have a full kind of like State of the Union thing where everybody cold callers and just everybody jumps in on a monthly basis. But and it's kind of like the meeting for everybody. And but each department has additional meetings with their people on a weekly basis. So it's always, it kind of trickles upward, right? The accountability. So employees tell their manager, my manager tells my director of operations, and then my director of operations has everything laid out for me when I come in.
So you're in the perfect position. They're doing everything and reporting to you.
Well, it's systems, right? Processes. And it's really neat to come in and then take that 50,000 foot view of the business. I think it's easy to get just caught up in the weeds when we're in it and we have a problem. It's almost hard to identify what it is if you're not looking at the overall picture. Okay, we don't have anything operating on this side. It's because something broke on this side. So
excellent advice. Yeah. So tell everybody what your final words of wisdom or your final advice would be for them if they are struggling with this whole process.
I think it really comes down to belief. It may sound cliche, but it's a lot of the stuff that stops us. It's not going to be intellect. It's not going to be a lack of systems and processes and resources. It's really a strong sense of belief that we can come in and do this, that we can come in and take responsibility for our own path, which is huge, right? It comes with headaches. It comes with growing pains. It comes with the understanding that not all days are going to be, nice and dandy. But once you have a taste for entrepreneurship and that that liberty of the options that you can get, it's hard to go back. So I mean, what I would say is give it enough, whatever industry you're tapping into, if it's real estate, if it's wholesaling, fix and flip, give it enough time to work, and be methodical about the actions that you are taking, right? Being intentional, have a purpose to all the actions that you do. And I don't mean that in a lifelong spiritual type of deal. Like have a actually, okay, cool, I'm going to take these actions because I want to generate this and that, kind of like that. So and give it enough time to work. I think people throw in the towel too early, too often. And like, you know what, it didn't work. How long have you been at it? I don't know, 3 weeks. Like, come on. It's there's light at the end of that tunnel if you get enough time. So.
Oh, I love that. And you do hear that's funny because it happens. How long have you been at it? 3 weeks. That didn't work. How much direct mail did you? How many calls did you make? No, that doesn't work. I did 10.
Yeah, exactly. I called 10 people. Nobody wants to sell me their house. Yeah. So let's go back to the drawing board on that. And just like in that on that lane, we're reaching out to a very specific percentage of the population. Say 100% or 100 people want to sell. Only 3 to 5 are going to sell to us. So out of the people who are actually interested in selling, only 3 to 5% of those are actually going to be somebody that we can work with when it comes to wholesaling. So it's a volume, definitely a volume game. You just got to give it enough time to work.
Well, that is such great advice. And listen to what he says. Don't throw in the towel after 3 weeks or 6 months or whatever. It takes a while to build a business.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Rafael. What's the best way for folks to get in touch with you?
I'm pretty active on social media. You can find me anywhere at Rafael Cortez, Rafael Cortez. CEO. So Rafael Cortez CEO. That's on Instagram. My YouTube channel is there as well. And I actually have a blueprint. It's a PDF blueprint that people can download. I can give you a link for that if you would like. It's reiwholesaling.com.
Okay. I'll put all of those links in the show, and be sure to go over there. Rafael has a lot of great content. He has a great podcast. Let's give a plug for that here, Rafael.
The CEO Pulse podcast.
Yes, you can find him. Just remember that.
The real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship.
Love that. Short and to the point. So thanks, Rafael. And thanks to all the listeners who come out week after week. I know you love the show, so please share it and leave us a rating and a review over on iTunes. It helps people to find us. And I will see you all same time, same place next week. Bye for now.